It's Wednesday. Let's chat. Hi, I'm Kanan Chandran, the publisher of StormAsia.com, and this is our regular series of web chats, discussions on topical issues, the Wednesday web chat. We've moved from street vendors to high streets to malls to virtual shopping, from personal interaction to artificial intelligence and machine learning, from desires to determinations, from wanting what we want to being told that we must live with something or we cannot live without something. Technology has pushed us along as well, and some, like our panelists, have crested their respective waves in delivering customer satisfaction, be it at a B2B or a B2C level. So today's discussion is about customers facing change. Our panelists today are well versed in their respective areas. They know one is in a very sort of firm physical arena where he meets people all the time. Another is in the virtual space in a big way and doing big things. So we've got Stephen Krempl, who's the CEO of Krempl Communications International. He's an international keynote speaker, a facilitator, a best-selling author and a corporate communications coach. Our other panelist is Aneesh Reddy. He's a co-founder and CEO of Capillary Technologies. Aneesh is one of India's leading entrepreneurs in the field of customer loyalty and engagement. He has grown his software company to become one of the world leaders in the customer loyalty field. Capillary is a global customer loyalty and engagement company that provides cloud-native, artificial intelligence-based software as a service products and solutions like automated loyalty management and consumer data portals. What do you guys, both of you think of service standards and the customer to business interface and the changes that have been taking place there?
No, I think Karan, the last 2 years have been more change than probably the last 15 put together, right? For both consumers and businesses, right? So there's been, I think, many things, right? So of course the COVID, it's 2 years now. So I think COVID is the new normal in some senses. That's changed a lot, right? I mean, we all buy more virtually now. The amount of time we spend digitally is far higher than we spend physically now, right? I mean, doing anything. And the other big change that's also coming through on the technology side is this whole Web3, right? The whole NFT side of the world and some of that, which I think is another big change. I don't think it shows up right now, but I think in the next 3-4 years, it will be a massive change, right? The whole Web3 piece, that's all this distributed, decentralized pieces that are coming up now, right? So, and what that's meant for the consumer is simple, right? You're spending a lot more time online, you're spending a lot more time on social channels, and you're not spending as much time offline, right? And what that means for the business, I think, and the engagement there has also been similar, right? I mean, I've never seen direct to consumer go up at the pace at which it's gone up in the last 2 years. It's incredible, right? The pace at which you're, I was speaking to a very senior consultant a few days ago in one of these big 3 consulting firms. And they mentioned that, look, we kept telling people that, digital is not happening, like it's only 1% of your revenue. And boom, in the last 2 years, everyone just had to wake up and drop everything else and run on this digital journey, right, as a business, both on the commerce side, also on the engagement side. Interestingly, I think where it's opened up a lot for brands which have been open to the idea is saying, look, earlier you had to go through a retailer, you had to go through a physical space. You could really not build a direct to consumer engagement, right? Like you couldn't engage with Aneesh, you had to engage through a retailer or through something else. And today that's changed, right? So I think those, I would say, are the big, the whole engagement and commerce going digital from a business perspective. And I think that's the big change, really. Yeah.
So certainly digital has had a big impact on everything and aided by the COVID, right? Because everybody got shoved into that space. Stephen, what's your experience been in this area?
Well, let me bring the other side of the perspective, right? From a whole technology standpoint, yes, we have now gone direct to customer, but there are many customers who are still going back into physical locality, whether it's a restaurant or whether it's a grocery store, and how technology has impacted that aspect of it is amazing. So I'll give you an example. Like in the US, there's this grocery store called Amazon Go. I mean, you know, Amazon as the digital shopping space, but Amazon had decided to put in money to have physical grocery stores that a customer, what they call cashless grocery stores. You walk in, you tap your phone onto the entrance, you pick up anything and you walk out. So go in, walk out, right? So that's why you say go. So just go in and go out, and that's it. Within 5 minutes of you leaving the store, the grocery list will be out and it'll be charged to your Amazon account. The reason they're doing this is for convenience, right? People on the go, they want to walk in, they don't have a lot of time, they pick up stuff, boom, and they're out, right? So think about that. The amount of technology, Aneesh, you can imagine, right? Whether it's advanced machine learning, AI, computer visioning, deep learning, sensor fusion, whatever, because now you got to do, I pick an item off the shelf. If I put it back on, how does the technology realize that I put it back on the shelf? Okay. If I drop something on the floor and I picked it back up, does that? So it's one of those interesting things, and people just love it.
Almost as if it's kind of echoing a lot of humanity at this stage, right? I mean, we are kind of stuck on our devices. We are very much into communicating via the internet or other means, other than actually physically talking to somebody. So are we cutting out the human element in all of this? Is it being cut out too much?
So let me give you the perspective on the restaurant side, right? So in the restaurant side, it's very hard to cut off the human because somebody's taking, yes, we have, you can order on your phone, you can check the menu and you can order on the tablet stuff, but somebody still has to come to you and serve you, and somebody has to interact with you there, possibly, right? Now, we know in the US, there's this company that's called Bear Robotics that has invented a robot that serves the restaurant industry called Serby, okay? Now, what that robot's done is actually enhance the interaction between the server and the customer, because the server now doesn't have to take the plate, order it, and go to the plate. He can interact and spend more time with the customers. Or when the stuff needs to be cleared, they put it on the robot and the robot automatically goes and takes it back off. It is amazing technology. And here's the biggest thing, the trip is this. Everywhere that this robot has been put in place in a restaurant, the tips for the server go up though. Not for the robot. Robot doesn't get tips. So the tips for the server goes up because he's interacting with the customer, and it's so novel for the customers. They find it as a big deal. So that's the other side of it. So here's where technology helps the human beings spend more time with each other, interacting and serving their needs.
Although it's become a virtual world, I think we'll all agree that probably we spent more time with family and friends in the last 2 years than we spent, in the years before, right? I mean, it's been virtual for sure, but I think the number of people I've called up over the last 2 years, because you didn't have to travel, you didn't have to take these long flights, you didn't have to spend those, half an hour on travel between meetings. It suddenly just opened up so much more time to meet people, even if it was virtually, right? So I think, and even from a business perspective, again, Karan, on that, I think what's happened is businesses today have so much more data on you, right? That they can really personalize your experiences, right? So like the restaurant I go to, the folks know that, look, this is the food I like, right? So it's a very simple experience, right? I don't need to tell them, look, less spice, more spice, this, that, none of that, right? They know, they look at you and they say, okay, yeah, this is it, right? So, and I think although it's become virtual has meant more data, right? Virtual has meant people can engage with Aneesh, not with a segment of 100,000 customers in which Aneesh is one of those, high value or, low frequency or whatever title that you would have given me otherwise, right? So it's gone virtual for sure, but I don't think it's gone less human. I think it's become more human than more personalized, more you than earlier.
Actually,
Is
I
it
like
some?
that term, Anish. Sorry, Kanan, just before I lose the point, right? So at Starbucks, they use the term radically personalized. So using AI to radically personalize your experience because they know who you are, they know what you've done before, you've come before, I can suggest things to you, even from the time of day, right? So we all kind of know that, but that's I think the beauty about leveraging technology where we can, right?
Yeah, let me give an example on Stephen's earlier company, right? Yum. We do a lot of work with Yum, and it's amazing. So you'd think that if I sent you 5 offers as a consumer, your chances of buying are higher than if I just sent you one.
Yeah, right.
If I just sent you one, and we've done this test so many times, right? So if I were to send you only one thing, and if chances of that campaign giving you a response, of course, that one thing has to be personalized to who you are and what you do and stuff like that. It's amazing, right? So less decision fatigue, much higher, almost like a 2x better, 2x or more better response rate, right? Why, as compared to saying, okay, here are 4 things, let the customer choose, right? So if you're able to do this well, I think it just makes it convenient for the user, and hence the outcome is just much better,
How accurate is the AI in this, though, in terms of identifying what the customer's profile is and delivering what the customer wants? How accurate is it?
So, Karan, I think, look, eventually it's a data system, right? So it's as good as the underlying data is, and that's where I think this virtual world is greatly helped. Because in the virtual world, you actually create great personalized, very specific data on the user, right? Unlike in an earlier thing where you would still do some segment, you would still do some stuff around it, right? You would try to infer a lot more than what is actually there, right? So I think it's getting fairly accurate now. I'd say over the last 5 years, I think your prediction rates have definitely gone up, like at least a 2x, 2.5x, if not more.
Okay.
And if it's not just the customer side, then AI is really helping on the inventory side, supply chain, replenishment of orders. At Starbucks they used to say, you don't want the restaurant to run out of nitro cold brew or your banana nut bread. But you don't want to put it on the manager or somebody else, right? If AI is working in the background, then it allows me to do other things which I'm supposed to be doing, which is connecting with the customer, making them have a great deal, manage. I mean, even from inventory to scheduling nowadays is all AI driven, right? So, it's very important how we can use the technology to help the experience, whether it's virtual or in person, right?
Does any of this help customer loyalty? I mean, build customer loyalty or brand loyalty from part of the customer. Are there things that can be worked in that will sort of help build that as well?
So from a Starbucks standpoint, for sure, because they have the Starbucks card and so they know who's coming in, they know loyalty and the repeat customers, they know that customers are active within 90 days, they know. And it has actually helped a great deal, though. And it's also helped from a personalized standpoint because we now know what kind of drinks you order, who you are, your frequency, blah, 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 where you go. Sometimes a little bit more information than we need, but that's the information you gather, right? So it does help a lot. And I think that's where it's going to go. Everybody's trying to do some version of that. And I don't want to say the worst case, but you go into your handphone is a gold mine for every retailer, right? You go on Amazon, you try and look at one product, you get 5 ads on the competitors' products being thrown at you because you've looked at one particular type of product, right? That's the whole data, gathering and then pushing it back to you because they think they're helping you out make a decision on a choice of product. Now, what I wouldn't say ticks me off, but after Amazon, after I bought the product, they're still pushing me the ads for the the same thing that I already bought. So somewhere some data is a bit off somewhere.
Yeah, maybe you need another one in case the first one is spoiled.
Exactly. Maybe I need to get a
Nothing like having a backup,
reorder. One is not enough, right?
Right.
Anish,
So,
when you come to developing the software, I mean, what do you bear in mind for the end user, for your customer?
yeah. So I think, Karan, so you touched on loyalty, right? So,
Yeah.
so let me tell you what at least loyalty is for me, right? And this is something we've pondered over for the last 8-10 years and said, look, for the longest while ever, loyalty was saying, I'll give you some points, I'll give you some discounts, and please come back because of it, right? I mean, that's how loyalty programs started, right? Traditionally.
Yep.
But if you really look at loyalty from any relationship perspective, it is a subconscious preference. It's a subconscious preference, right? It's not a conscious preference. Having to give an offer to bring someone back, then there's a problem. That's not loyalty, right? You're running a promotion. Let's be honest about it, right? So loyalty for me is building that subconscious preference to something, right? And the best way to, if you look at your own examples, right, you build preference towards businesses or people who you think understand you well.
Yep.
Right? You would be loyal to folks if you work at a company and you have a feeling that your manager, your team understands you well. Then you tend to be more loyal to that company. You won't jump when you have the next quick paycheck jump, right? So it's as simple as that. And so for us, loyalty has been a lot about saying, look, it starts with data for us. Can we get good data about you as an individual? Can we understand your preferences? Can I give you, experiences or engagements which are not like how Stephen put it, right? You threw 10 things at me, right? So loyalty for us is, and more so today, right? I mean, I think there was a time 50 years ago when every penny mattered. Today, honestly, we're not in that world. The consumer is not in the every penny mattered world, right? We are on in a world where we have more money, we have more than we need, right? I mean, for whether it's through credit or whether it's direct, but you have enough, right? So, and I think that's where loyalty for us has been saying, look, get the right set of data, build a good understanding of the consumer, then deliver, whether it's promotions, engagement, communication, can you personalize it and then deliver it back to the, back to that end consumer. And and there's some very, very good pieces here, right? So again, I'll go back to Yang. One big realization there was, if you get a consumer to try the brand out 3 times, right? You have built some kind of loyalty right there.
Yep.
Right? So the drop rate, that is the consumer not coming back after coming back thrice, is 1/10 of what it would be at the end of the first visit. Right? So, and we would, you do stuff like saying, this is the day part when the consumer when this individual really orders from you. And this is an individual who orders the same pizza always.
Yep.
So don't talk to me about this new stuff that you've got and this nice jazzy thing. I'm not interested. Right? So, so that's Karan. So for us, when we think of building the software, it's that. It's about saying, look, can I understand you better? And can I build these into repeatable, convenient experiences for you as you progress on the journey, between the consumer and the
I don't know nowadays, but when I was at Starbucks for sure, that when a person comes in, if you're a new Starbucks experience, like so you're a new person to Starbucks, within the first few visits, you will find your favorite drink. And guess what? Every time you come back, you order the same drink, the same number of pumps, with the same flavor, exactly the same. They may try a new drink once, but they'll come back to the same drink. Why? Because you already have a taste profile in your mind and you're wanting that taste to satisfy you, right? And that's the, whether it's your subconscious, idea, I'm waiting to get my whatever drink, right? Or whatever sandwich or whatever chicken or whatever. So, and that's why when people are loyal to a brand, they will argue you to the death that chicken is better than this other changed chicken, because that's the one they got used to, and that's the one that they like, right? You can find the same loyal customers on the other side arguing the same thing, though. because they got used to it, right? So Anish, the 3 is a magic number, and you can get them longer than that. That's what they want to do, though, right?
So it's about familiarity, right? It's still certain core human behaviors will still remain, right? You
It's
still
taste,
want
right?
your.
So taste is very subjective. So I'll give you an example, right? You go somewhere and you taste food. I don't care whether it's Indian food, Malay food, Chinese food. Somewhere in your back in your history, you had the ideal taste of that food. So you go to the restaurant, you go, this one is excellent. No, because it tasted like your memory of the food, how it's supposed to taste like, right? And that's your preference. So and that's a very interesting way of, that's just the taste side and the food side. Then there's the environment, do I like the color scheme, do I like the smell, whatever it is. There's just so many different elements of that, and that's why you need people like Anish to crunch the data for you and figure out what brings them back and keeps coming back all the time, right?
So let me add a little bit to that, Karan and Stephen's, right? So roughly about 40% are what Stephen and I were discussing. This order the same thing always, right? So, and then there's another 10-20% who is, quote unquote, we would call them menu miners back then, right? So this is folks who come to you for freshness.
Yep.
Right.
So try something new.
Exactly. And which is why, so when you come up, and it's important for businesses to keep their experience fresh and their products fresh, right? Keep coming up with new ideas. But probably there's a 40% bulk which doesn't need that. There's another 20% which probably needs that. Right. So I think understanding that and then going to Aneesh, who's not going to change stuff with something new is not going to work. While there might be this menu miner who, needs something new and will come back to you to really taste this, KFC had this, what is it called? It was called pizza chicken or something like that, where the base would be made of chicken, right? So stuff like that, right? So, yeah. So I think it's finally about trying to understand who that individual is and what their drivers are, which keep changing, by the way. Every 2-3 years, your preferences as an individual also change, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, people grow up, things change, right? And so
Yeah.
you change. So as a result, you would the systems that you write allow that sort of things to be factored in, the changing behavior, maybe a change in location, change in the age, whether you have a family, that sort of thing. What are the kind of questions that you would ask? That you want to ask a customer so that you can track them accurately?
So I think, so if it's a website, Karan, then, it's very simple browsing behavior, right? So if you were earlier browsing something and today you're browsing something else, that's clear change, right? Let me give you a very simple example, which you will definitely connect with, right? So we do work with a bunch of mother and baby brands, right? So we could have this life cycle of a -9 months to a +3 years or a +9 years, depending on what that brand sold, right? And you could make out that the kid is moving, the kid is growing, and this is how the purchase is changing. This is how the parents are buying different stuff. It's very easy to kind of make that out, right? Similarly, let's take a department store, right? So, first job, you buy a suit, a lot of casuals. As you keep moving up, a little bit more formal, less jeans. You can see that trend play out, basis a few of, so earlier this would be slightly manual. In the first 5 years of the firm, we had a analytics team, the analytics team grew to 60 people at that point in time, right? So in a company of 400, we had 60 analytics folks just helping us mine this data. And today we have a 6-member analytics team, and we work with many more customers because a lot of that intelligence is now coming straight from the AI.
Yeah.
One click, we can tell you, look, what is possibly the next product you should talk to this consumer about. Earlier, it would take us 2 months of running models, people sitting on it, building it, but it just drastically changed, right? And AI learns. The AI definitely learns. Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is part of our Jobs 20XX Work in Progress series of discussions, right? It's in partnership with OUE. So one of the key areas of these sessions is to try and understand what are the kind of jobs that would be out there. Whether you're going to college, going to take the appropriate degree that you want to emerge and then plug into the workforce, or whether you're in mid-career or new to the job industry, or even if you're advanced in age and want to find something new, you still want to be plugged in. What are the kind of opportunities that exist in this space? Because if, Aneesh, as you say, from a 60 team to a 6-person team for analytics, that means there's the people that will not, there's a lot of competition for a few spots, right? So how then do you equip yourselves to be suited for these kind of a career in this area?
See, I think, Karan, so, technology is just evolved in the last 15 years at a pace which has been unbelievable, right? So, and if analytics was hot 10, 15 years ago, it was very hot, right? 10, 15 years ago, analytics was really very hot. Today, I think a lot of it has kind of diverged into two parts, I would say. One is subject matter experts, finally, AI is about finding patterns, automating, etc. Right? So one area I would say is be an expert in what you're doing. Right? So going into, if you're in like in our case, we pick analytics and loyalty and CRM, and we say we'll just do only this. We won't get into logistics or any of that stuff. Right? And that's greatly helped us, because I think on this topic we understand it like really well. Right? So as an individual, going deep on one area, I think is great. And second is, look, I think some of these technology trends, right? It's like a 10x improvement. If I were to look at manual analytics versus AI now, in areas where it works, it's 10x better, right? So hence I would say, I think AI, Web3, some of these are areas to acclimatize yourselves with for sure. I think it adds a lot of value. More and more softwares will move towards using these as default. Going forward, right? So the other is, of course, with this whole blow up on the D2C side, right? The direct to consumer side. And this is not only the commerce direct to consumer, but also the engagement side of direct to consumer. There are consumer brands which I never thought would think of doing loyalty or think of doing direct to consumer engagement. Like we work with Abbott for a brand of theirs called Pediafer. And this is things they sell in retail stores, right? It's a milk brand. And they have a fairly successful direct-to-consumer engagement program, an app. The mom downloads the app. It's crazy, right? So I wouldn't have imagined this like 15 years ago, right? So I think these areas, the digital engagement and the digital side, and there are lots of good online courses on this side. The AI pieces, Web3, I'd put some of those. The other track I would put is the going deep, right? Be the expert in what you are. I'd say, I think these would be great places to focus if you're looking on the job side. Yeah.
Okay.
Totally agree with the sentiment on Aneesh, you go deep and be a SME. But then there's something that don't change, okay? Which is this. You have to learn to get along with people. You have to learn to communicate, and you have to learn to lead. Because I don't care. I don't know how many people I'm coaching now. They are really deep, technically competent, but these three things, they're useless. I wouldn't say they're useless, but they find it a little bit more difficult. They need some help, right? So, but people, they tend maybe not to do this, right? I got an A. I'm a straight A student. So I'm definitely going to get promoted. No, maybe the first few rungs, yeah. I've had a number of people who own their companies, I got rid of that fellow because he's a pain in the neck and he's the most negative person always, even though he was my best engineer or software fella. In the end, when the downturn came, I got rid of them because, and so those core elements of getting along with people, communicating and leading somewhere along the line is a must. Right? If you're in a large organization, I don't care whether it's a large organization, it can be a small organization, you still need those skills.
I'd like to add to this one, Stephen and Karan. So, I think over the last 13, 14 years, as we've grown Capillary, I think one thing I've realized is self-aware people, end up growing a lot more.
Yeah.
Especially as you grow through the ranks and as and I would totally agree, Stephen. I think at the entry level, skill and expertise become great,
Yep.
but as you go up, it ends up becoming how aware are you, how well can you work, and interestingly, these are now things that you can teach, right? Awareness and just being aware of what's happening, being a good listener. Some of that stuff is what you can sign up to be coached for, sign up to be taught, right? So
I was talking to a group of CFOs the other day at one of their meetings, right? And the topic was just being positively negative, which is anything that can be said negatively. My theory is that you can actually say it a little bit more neutrally or positively, right? If you
Give us an example.
Well,
Give
you
us
can
an
say,
example.
Kanan, I totally disagree with the strategy for marketing. That product idea is useless. You can say it may be true though, right? Or I can say, Kanan, how do we get the support of our employees for that new idea from marketing, right? Now I'm still telling you that nobody agrees with the idea for marketing, but I'm not saying nobody likes this idea for marketing. It's really useless. Now, here's what most people say, right? No, Stephen, you see, when you have a tough message, you have to tell it like it is. Authentically, I'm being authentic 100% all the time. Yeah, I know. But if every time you open your mouth, you're negative, guess what? Negative. The next time you put up your hand, people go, oh my God, here he goes again, right? They shut off and you lose your authenticity because you thought you were being direct all the time. So that's another skill, being self-aware. You need to know when sometimes to say things and when to hold back. And that's a skill. It can be taught, but some people are better than others because they're not listening, right, Aneesh? They just, what comes in the head comes out the mouth. And it's not as simple as that, right? So
how much of your time is spent interacting with your team, Aneesh?
Me, I think more than half my time, Karan. So like I religiously, and it's not only like there's a leadership team, which is people I work with directly, right? It's about 10, 11 of us. I also do another 50 skip levels once a quarter, so which is like people who the leadership team reports to. So I think if you want to build a company for the long term, it's people, right? I mean, the business is all about
can't run away from that, right?
Yeah, can't run away, and that's the beautiful side of business as well.
Yeah.
At least for me, right? I think it's the people make the business interesting. The people make the business fun, right? So,
what have you learned about yourself in that process, Aneesh?
What have I learned about myself in that process? Quite a bit. I think I've kind of grown from this, straight A's guy, did very well in school, to saying, this is not good enough. That's one big. I would say that's been an interesting journey over the last 12, 13 years where I've been this fairly brash, know what to do guy to, I think today a lot more, the way I'd put it is not be the autopilot, but see the autopilot a little bit, right? See what's happening in your mind, think whether you should say this and then say it. As compared to probably, let's say 10 years ago where, I would just like immediately let out. Yeah. The autopilot would like respond, right? Keep us has to say this now. Yeah. So I think that's one. We spend a lot of effort in the company, Kanan, on coaching, right? So we have coaches for all levels, right from leadership team to, the leadership -1. We're now trying out some automated softwares to do some nudge-based behavior changes. But I do believe that, it's a very, very important part of building culture or building a business. Right, so
that's interesting, the automated nudge-based thing. How would that work out?
So let's say, I'll give you an example, right? We had a bunch of employees signing up saying our work-life balance is not great. And we're all on Slack. There's a company called InnerFit, you should check it out. Right, so as people signed up to that cohort, about 20-25 of them. And what these guys do is, work-life balance is not great. It's because, you're probably not compartmentalizing time. the 6-7 behaviors that you should get into, right? So every day they will send you 1 or 2 nice memes on a Slack channel. And whether you like it or not, this generation of people learns through memes. That's what we watch. We are not going to read this 1-page long article and attend this 1.5 hour long call. That meme, that small thing that's on my, Instagram or on my, Slack in this case, is probably a bigger behavior changer than actually this long article I read and never implemented. Right? So if I'm able to get you to like compartmentalize time for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I know you will do it yourselves on the next day, right? So it's a little bit like that. I don't know if I made sense, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's building behavior to some extent, isn't it? You're almost conditioning people.
Yeah, behavior change, right?
Yeah, it's almost subliminal in how it might manipulate the minds of people, though. I look at it that way.
You're signing up for that behavior change. You're saying, look, I have a work-life balance problem. Right. So, and it only works when you want to change. If you don't want to, it'll anyway not work.
Forget it.
What gaps have you noticed in the systems that you have put in place? Gaps in terms of the lack of receptiveness between the customer and what you're offering, and are there things that need to be bridged because of those gaps?
Over the last 12-13 years as we built Capillary, right? So I think we built products 2 ways. One is we would go ask customers what they want and then build it, right? So, or a lot of user research and then build something. The second has been places where, I as a founder felt, look, we should build this. I feel very passionately about this. And I can tell you almost always the second one failed, right? So I think staying close to your customers, listening to what customers are seeing in their business, right? Being that sounding board, on saying, look, here's what we're seeing. What do you think we should do? I think that's the best way to build products or build a business, at least as per me. And I think that somewhere also applies to, jobs and the way you want to work. And I think being a great listener, trying to help someone genuinely with what they're trying to do, I think is probably the best way to scale.
Yeah, I think asking customers is one way of building, and then some customers don't even know what they want. So sometimes they need you to help them see the potential, whatever it is, right? Whatever that new product, and then through reiteration, having an agile strategy, you might refine the final product may end up a little bit different with the input, but you have to start somewhere and say, this is what's possible. And they go, oh, wow, they didn't even think of that, right? And that's how you can help the customers, because, if you look at all the technology that companies are implementing, they're all doing it with technology partners. That means somebody has come into the company and sold somebody that this is what that company needs, right? And so it always looks like, oh, the company is leading. No, if you really look behind through the articles, through whatever, there's a technology partner somewhere that's helping them out, though. Like Aneesh, right?
Yeah. I think the part to add there is, having a group of 5-7 customers who are smart and intelligent, who are your smartest customers, in other words, where you take all these ideas to before you build a PPT.
That's right.
A PPT is your minimum viable product, right? Go to them and say, look, does this make sense? And quite a few times they'll say, look, yeah, it does. Many times they'll say, look, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then probably it's better to trust the combined wisdom of the group than go with your ego of saying, no, I'll still build this. I think I still know what they want, right? So,
So Aneesh, for you, when you got into this space, did you know what you were going to do, or did you fall into it?
We fell into it totally, Karan. So we were really 2 kids out of college. We had 2 years of work ex when we started Capillary. And luckily we didn't know what to do. I say luckily we didn't know what to do, right? So, and hence the only way to do it was to speak to a lot of people. And we started exactly a month before Lehman tanked. So it was the big recession and people were willing to talk, right? So we would go and ask them saying, look, we're 2 kids out of IIT. Tell us what do you want us to build? And then many people spoke to us, and then we finally gravitated that 60% of people were asking one thing. We said, okay, this makes sense. Let's build this. Right. So that's kind of how at least Capillary started and how we fell into the whole, it was the recession. People weren't getting customers back into their stores. So a lot of folks told us, look, we need something on the customer engagement and loyalty side. That's how Capillary ended up happening. So.
Okay. A fortunate series of events then, no? that brought Capillary together. And what's your roadmap like? I mean, what's going to happen? How do you see yourself 5 years from here? Do you even project that far?
I think 5 years, the technology business changes every 2-3 years. And we rewrite our entire stack every 2-3 years. Every 3 years, the whole stack is rewritten. That's the pace at which tech is changing. I think there's fundamentally some big changes happening now, right? So if you look at, this whole direct-to-consumer piece, and fact is also that I think loyalty is changing, right? 10 years ago, probably, or 20 years ago, loyalty was about points. Today, it's about, do I understand you? I think the answer to that question is more important. So our roadmaps are on that. We also think, what happened in China 5 years ago, this whole avatars and the metaverse type stuff is much more real now in the rest of the world. China is anyway 5 years ahead of everyone else on consumer tech, right? So I think it's a very interesting point in time on how business and consumer relationships are drastically changing. Right. So our roadmap is a lot on that. The consumer data platforms are about getting all your data together. The AI is all about helping you understand. We have a bunch of these gamification, non-points, non-transaction type stuff that we're building. Right. So very focused on engaging you and building that comfort, than expecting you, please come buy from me each time and then you will build comfort with me. Right. So stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. Stephen, how about yourself? 5 years from now?
5 years from now, there are a lot of things that will not change. What has changed is how you do the work, right? The training methodologies or mediums may change. 2 years ago, nobody did Zoom or virtual training. Now everybody's okay to do virtual training, right? In fact, the funniest thing is, the standard is, if you do more than 3 hours of virtual training, people can't concentrate and all that. I had one customer in Singapore who decided, he said, Stephen, no, we want you to do 2 days straight, 9 to 5 training, virtual training. I was like, oh my God, right? I said, are you sure? No, you don't want to split it up? No, that's the way it is. That was my best, highest rating that I got. You know why? Because everybody who attended the class blocked out the 2 days and focus on the training. Otherwise, everybody at the end of, whatever time, I don't care whether it's 2 hours, 3 hours, or 1 hour, I got to jump off early, I got to make another meeting. So that means in the training, they're already thinking of their next meeting, not focus on the training. So very interesting change from that kind of thing. Now, moving forward, whether it's VR or whatever it is, I know a number of my clients are playing around with those things. It hasn't fully got there. I mean, some are using it. But am I going to go down that track? Probably not. I still have my online stuff. And so from that perspective, all I think is that the virtual part of the training world will not go away. I just got introduced to a new platform that were doing so many things that you can now do, before groups, everybody can participate, whether it's Slack or something, not quite Slack, but this is for a training platform that has changed. So the providers in that space may change, that will allow the users like myself or all the training organizations to have a much richer experience.
Is there an inherent pressure on brands to go omnichannel?
As businesses or as we need to follow the consumer, right? So we need to follow the individual. And fact is, taking each of us as consumers, we are spending more time on multiple channels now, right? So compared to, let's say, 5-7 years ago, I'm sure all of us are on all kinds of social channels, are doing much more e-commerce buying than we ever did, right? So omnichannel is here to stay. I don't think it's going to. and the last 2 years have been like a crash course, accelerated catalytic program on that by many means, right? So, and I think Omnichannel also helps because you have much more, it helps you get to a lot more data on the individual. It gives you an opportunity to be much more relevant to that consumer through the communication you're doing, through the language you're using, through what you're trying to do, right? So yeah, I definitely think Omnichannel is greatly adds to building better relationships and hence better loyalty. I think the new category and space, like there are a few, right? So I think we're trying this with I think 3 new verticals which have really sprung up in the last 2 years. One is direct to consumer, right? So the Abbott Pediasure example I was kind of giving you. We do that for some other brands also now, including a beer brand, and so brands which never had consumer data and hence could not think of engagement or loyalty on a one-to-one basis. Now through a digital app, through QR code, etc., can actually get to that place, right? So and we're seeing that being very, very, very attractive, right? So the second is we work with one of the top 5 oil and gas players globally, right? So and they know that EV is coming. Right, electric vehicles are coming, and your main premise of going to a gas station, which is fueling, is not going to be there. Right, it's going to move to probably a 15-minute quick charge to get to 80% of your charge. Right, so and suddenly all these businesses are now thinking, look, I want that consumer to buy groceries from me. I want that consumer to come and pick their coffee from me in the morning. You park your car, and you do all this, while you're, the car is charging up. Right, so. It's a very interesting place there, right? So I was very surprised to see that we've got to like a few million consumers for them on the app in less than a year. And this would typically be otherwise a very transactional. Walked into the fuel station, filled my car, punched my card, walked out. Right. So people are downloading the app, they are engaging with the app. So it's been very refreshing to see that switch. And hopefully then it will mean that, look, you will come for your fast charge at our place and I can give you better electricity rates and you charge at your home, right? So some of that, right? So the third is conglomerates. I think in conglomerates, again, I think there's been this, thanks to the digital world, now they're saying, look, I have 20 businesses, but it's the same consumer. Can I get this single view of, and this is a big phenomenon in Asia, more so, Stephen, where a lot of businesses run by large conglomerates, unlike the US, right? So we're seeing that as a big play. The Tatas have launched a group, an app called Neo. The Alphatems have launched something called Blue. I know there are a bunch of other conglomerates in Southeast Asia as well who are looking to launch a group-wide thing. Where has it not worked? Look, I think. Actually, I'm struggling to say that. Earlier I would say it doesn't work in categories like electronics, where there's a long decision cycle, etc. But we run a very successful program for Erajaya, which is the largest mobile phone retailer in Indonesia. It's an amazingly well-run program. Look, I think loyalty, Pavni, I think was the person who asked this, is about eventually making you a subconscious preference, right? In something like Apple as an iPhone, there is that. Subconsciously, the next phone you're going to buy is the iPhone if you're an Apple user.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So I think does loyalty not work in anything? I don't know. I think it works pretty much. If you're, of course, doing it as a program for discounts and just trying to bump up temporary sales, yeah, I don't think it'll work. But if you do it right, and play these things right of saying, look, let me understand the consumer, let me personalize, I think it will work, even if it's a long-term sales cycle or a very short-term cycle. I don't think it matters.
Cool. Stephen, you want to add to that?
No, I think all the customers that I'm dealing with are figuring out their unique customer, understanding the customer, what they want, what are they looking for. So I'll give you an example, grocery stores, at least in the US, right? Before you used to have the parking lot, right? Or car park in Singapore, you say, right? Now the first 6 lots closest to the thing are for pickup. Why? Because you call in your order, you put your order online, and then you go there You tell the person in there and they come up and put the groceries in your cart. Totally changed, but people want that, right? And that's what they found. And so that's how you keep your customers, coming back to your same location, even though the world has changed or whatever it is. You just have to, your same physical space, no different than the gas station that is there, right? What else can you do with that space? No different than when McDonald's started. So, I mean, this is going back to history now. McDonald's used to be a burger, right? Why breakfast? Though? Suddenly you have breakfast. Now everybody has breakfast. Why? You same physical facility. I have that day part that I'm not serving, right? And that's why at Starbucks, they tested, I wouldn't say they started because it's a different, serving wine after 1 o'clock in the afternoon in some of the stores in Seattle for tests. Why? What do you think? How many glasses of coffee can you drink, right? Or cups of coffee? Though? Morning, after, you mean you're going to drink another one right after lunch and another one in the midday, another one? No. So maybe there's a different beverage that you might want to serve, right? Same location, another day part, how you're serving your customers, what they're using. Because what everybody was using Starbucks for was their temporary office. Though. All the insurance agent, everybody was Starbucks. So now how do I get these people to buy another beverage other than my main beverage, which is coffee, right? So.
Yeah, okay, great. So it looks at the end of the day, it's still about listening to your customer, giving them what they want to a large extent. Right? Yeah. So that's how you still retain your customer service levels and the loyalty. So Aneesh from India and Stephen from Nashville, thank you very much for being in today's session.